So there's this moment, you're with a man you like, things are getting heated, the chemistry is building, and it happens. His joystick isn't standing at attention. Cue the awkward silence, the self-doubt, and the mental panic. But here's what most women don't realize. That moment is not a reflection of your attractiveness, your worth there, or your femininity. And it doesn't mean the spark is gone. Actually presents one of the most intimate opportunities to show your emotional intelligence, your confidence, and your connection there. Because here's the truth, every man at some point in his life has dealt with a soft joystick, whether it's due to stress, pressure, exhaustion, overthinking, or even just something as simple as a bad meal. It happens. And how you respond in that moment can either deepen your connection or accidentally put distance between you. So today, realize that I want to show you 5 ways to handle a soft joystick like a total goddess. This isn't about fixing him. It's about creating the emotional safety and playfulness that helps both of you enjoy the moment, no matter what's happening physically. Let's turn awkwardness into intimacy. Let's take the pressure off performance and put the focus back on pleasure, trust, and connection. Realize that here are 5 incredibly powerful things you can do when he's soft. And trust me, men don't forget the women who handle this moment right. When a man finds himself soft during an intimate moment, one of the most immediate reactions he experiences is shame. He may not say anything out loud, but internally his mind is likely racing. He's thinking, is something wrong with me? Is she disappointed? Did I mess this up? Will she still find me attractive? These thoughts can flood in within seconds. They're in that vulnerable space, the energy in the room becomes incredibly fragile. That's why your reaction in that exact moment matters more than you think. If you respond with visible confusion, their irritation, disappointment, or even worse, self-blame, you unintentionally feed into his internal fears. What he needs most in that moment isn't a solution. It's your emotional steadiness. Your ability to be cool, calm, and entirely unbothered communicate something powerful. This doesn't shake me. I'm still here. We're still good. What makes this response so magnetic is that it shows confidence, and not the kind of loud, performative confidence that needs to prove something. No, this is quiet. Realize that they're grounded confidence, the kind that says, I'm not here for perfection. I'm here for presence. When you remain relaxed, maybe even offer a playful smile, a warm touch, or a little kiss, you realize that you're telling him that his worth in your eyes doesn't hinge on whether or not his joystick is cooperating. Realize that that is an unbelievably relieving message for a man to receive, especially in a moment where he's already feeling the weight of expectation. So what does staying cool look like in real terms? It might mean giggling and curling up next to him instead of freezing up, or asking, Rhea, is everything okay? It could mean continuing the moment with soft touches or switching the mood into something lighter. It might even mean whispering something cheeky like, realize that maybe we both needed a break, or you owe me extra cuddles now. Humor, when used gently and playfully, is incredibly healing. Realize that it can disarm shame and invite closeness instead of awkward distance. Remember, the goal here is not to pretend nothing is happening. Realize that they're not ignoring it. You're just choosing not to make it a crisis. That choice creates emotional safety. They're there. It's also important to understand that many men have internalized this belief that their value in intimacy is directly tied to their performance. It's a cultural script. They're one that says a real man, the always ready, always strong, and always able to perform on command. But biology doesn't always comply. Stress, fatigue, overthinking, alcohol, anxiety, realize they're distractions. Any of these things can affect a man's body. And when it does, if you can look at him with a smile that says, this changes nothing, you become a woman who feels like emotional oxygen to him. You become someone he feels safe around, someone he doesn't have to perform for, someone who sees him, not just the part of him he wishes was behaving. And perhaps most importantly, staying cool and unbothered shows that you're emotionally grounded within yourself, that your mood doesn't swing wildly based on every external circumstance. That you know your own worth and aren't dependent on a single physical detail to feel desirable. That's incredibly attractive, Because if you can handle this moment with grace, he knows you can probably handle a lot of other things with the same maturity and care. You become someone who brings not pressure, someone who makes him feel like he's enough, realize that even when his body isn't doing what he wishes it would. And long after that moment passes, long after things return to normal, he'll remember how you made him feel. He'll remember the woman who didn't flinch, didn't panic, didn't criticize, but instead made space, stayed soft, and stayed confident. That kind of woman, she's unforgettable. They're one of the most powerful mindset shifts you can bring into an intimate moment, especially when things don't go quite as expected, is to stop focusing on performance and start focusing on sensuality. Realize that this is where true connection lies. Because let's be honest, when a man's joystick isn't rising to the occasion, there's an unspoken tension that creeps in. It's like there's a scoreboard in the room. Is he ready? Are we succeeding? Are we still on track? But here's the secreting. The most memorable and electric moments don't come from what a body is or isn't doing. They come from the energy you create together. Realize that and you have so much more power to shape that experience than you might think. What you want to do is gently shift the atmosphere from pressure to play. If his body is not cooperating, realize that that's not your cue to hit the brakes. It's your invitation to explore a different gear. That might mean slowing down and simply kissing him in a way that says, I'm still totally into you. It might mean brushing your lips against his neck, tracing patterns on his chest, realize that or just lying there touching each other like there's no finish line to rush toward. This is where magic happens, because when a man feels like he doesn't need to be on, to be desired, realize that when he feels your presence and your enjoyment without expectation, he starts to relax. And ironically, it's in that relaxed space that his body may just begin to respond all on its own. The truth is, most men live in a constant performance minds, not just in bed, but in life. He's trying to be successful, strong, capable. They realize they're in control. And when his body doesn't line up with that image, it throws everything into question. But you have the ability to pull him out of that state. You can look at him and say, with your touch, your energy, and your confidence, you don't have to do anything right now. Just be here with me. That freedom. That's intoxicating because most men don't get kind of permission. And when they do, it opens the door to a whole new kind of intimacy. This also gives you the chance to fully step into your own sensuality. Realize that take a deep breath, slow down, and ask yourself, what would feel good for me right now? Maybe you shift to touching yourself while he watches. Maybe you guide his hands somewhere and show him what feels amazing. Maybe you just curl into him, press your body against his, and breathe together. When you do this without trying to fix the situation, without trying to get him back up, you send the message that you don't need performance to feel close. You just need connection there. And believe it or not, that is one of the sexiest things you can ever give a man. In fact, so often the pressure men feel is unspoken. You may not be saying anything at all, realize that but if you're mentally focused on getting things back on track, he can feel it. It's subtle, but it's real. That's why it's so important to fully let go of expectation and allow the moment to evolve naturally. When you're simply enjoying his presence, his skin, his breathing, and not waiting for something to change, that's when things begin to open, not just physically, but emotionally. And emotional arousal often leads to physical arousal. Realize that when the pressure is gone and pleasure is leading the way, what makes a woman unforgettable isn't just how she shows up when everything is going smoothly. It's how she shows up in the unscripted, unfiltered moments. It's how she moves from pressure into play, from awkwardness into ease, from expectation into deep presence. When you master that, you don't just become someone he likes, you become someone he feels safe with, and someone who doesn't just want his body, but wants his soul. And trust me, men don't forget a woman like that. When a man finds himself soft, there's often an elephant in the room, and that elephant is silence. No one knows what to say. You might feel awkward. He might be quiet and withdrawn there. But the truth is, what he's really looking for in that moment is reassurance, not a long speech, not pity, and definitely not overcompensation. He's looking for a signal from you that says you're still enough. But here's the subtle art issue. The best kind of reassurance doesn't make a big deal out of it, doesn't spotlight the moment. It slips in gently, like a wink between lovers that says, we're fine. This is where your emotional intelligence becomes deeply attractive. They realize there, when a man feels like something went wrong, the last thing he wants is a magnifying glass on it. They realize that he doesn't need you to ask 5 times if he's okay or start analyzing the moment like it's a science project. What he craves is normalcy. He wants to feel like the air hasn't changed. Like you're still here, still into him, still enjoying yourself. One of the most powerful things you can do is simply carry on with ease. Maybe you make a cheeky joke. Maybe you change positions into a cuddle and whisper something like, you still drive me crazy. Or even simpling, still sexy as hell. These small phrases, spoken without tension or fear, realize that they land deeply. And here's what's even more interesting. When you handle the situation with this kind of casual warmth, it often opens the door to intimacy that's even better than before. Because now, instead of trying to perform, you're both allowed to just be. It's no longer about getting somewhere. It's about the connection. When he feels you haven't lost interest, haven't withdrawn, haven't turned this into a problem, it lowers his internal walls. And that, ironically, is what brings many men back into their bodies. Not pressure, not pity, but presence. This kind of gentle, reassurant re-ents also breaks a harmful pattern, because so many men grow up with the belief that their desirability is directly tied to their physical readiness. If they can't perform, they're somehow failing. That belief doesn't disappear in adulthood. It just gets buried until a moment like this brings it right back to the surface. But if he's with a woman who can look him and say, even in small ways, I'm still here, you're still wanted, that belief starts to soften. That's a healing experience. That's a memory he'll carry forever. Now, this doesn't mean you have to ignore your own needs or pretend like nothing ever happened. This isn't about being fake. It's about being present and choosing not to assign negative meaning to the moment. Because when you panic, he feels that. When you second guess yourself, he notices there. And when you treat his body like it just failed a test, he internalizes that energy. But when you keep your rhythm, when you stay grounded and offer just a simple touch, a kiss, or even a playful comment, you turn something or awkward into something beautiful. There's a reason why some women are unforgettable in a man's life. It's not just how they look. They realize it's not how adventurous they are in bed. They handle the unexpected. It's how they make him feel like a man, even when his body isn't showing up the way he wants. That feeling. Realize that that reassurance without spotlight, that warmth without pressure, it's rare. And when you give it to him, he doesn't just want to sleep with you. He wants to be close to you. He wants to stay with you. There's something incredibly powerful about a woman who knows how to take the lead. Not in an aggressive way but with a soft kind of confidence that invites rather than insists. And in a moment where his joystick isn't cooperating, this becomes your secret superpower. You see, realize that most men have been conditioned to believe they're supposed to guide the entire experience. They're expected to initiate, lead, perform, and please. Realize that they're there. So when their body doesn't align with that role, they feel lost. They don't know where to go from there. That's exactly when you can step in and completely change the energy, not by trying to fix him, but by gently guiding the moment somewhere new. When a woman takes the lead in this way, it doesn't mean she has to turn into a different person. It just means she taps into her ability to set the tone. You might lean in and start kissing him more slowly with more intention. You might place his hands somewhere you like, or let your body take center stage. You could shift him into a cuddle, climb on top of him or even just lie beside him while running your fingers through his hair. All of these things say the same thing. I'm still into you. Realize that and this moment is still ours. It's not about what his body is doing. It's about how you're both feeling. And when you lead with that kind of security, it gives him permission to relax. This is the moment where you can invite him into something more playful, more exploratory. Maybe you lean in and say, there, just enjoy me. Maybe you take a moment to focus on your own pleasure while letting him observe, participate, or simply be close. The energy shifts completely when you stop waiting for him to return to some performance role and instead say, you're still welcome here. You're still part of this. It becomes less about fixing a soft joystick and more about deepening the connection without needing everything to go back to normal. Ironically, when a man feels this kind of inclusion, when he feels that you're still enjoying yourself, still turned on, still invested in the moment, he often starts to get aroused again. That not because you demanded it, because you removed the pressure. When you lead in a way that invites connection instead of controlling the outcome, realize that there you open the door for desire to return naturally. And even if it doesn't, you've still created an intimate, positive memory, one that builds trust and brings you closer. Men deeply crave this kind of acceptance. And what makes your leadership so attractive is that it doesn't come from neediness or control. It comes from generosity, from presence, from knowing your worth and being able to steer the moment toward warmth and pleasure, no matter what the situation. You're not reacting to disappointment. You're creating something new, something even better. Most women don't realize how sexy it is to lead like this. They think taking the lead has to be loud or dominant. But in reality, the most magnetic kind of leadership is the quiet, feminine kind. It's when you shift the mood with a whisper, a smile, a movement. When you show him that pleasure doesn't begin and end with one part of his body, it begins with the energy between you. That kind of leadership isn't just attractive, it's unforgettable. Realize and when a man experiences that kind of moment with a woman where she takes the pressure off, takes control in a loving way, and brings him back into connection, not through force, but through invitation, that's when he starts to see her differently. He doesn't want to be with her. He starts to trust her. And that trust is what makes the connection last. One of the most damaging things a woman can do when a man's joystick isn't responding the way he or she wants is to take it personally. That quiet voice in your head starts to whisper, I'm not attractive enough. Did I do something wrong? Is he not into me anymore? And even though you might not say it out loud, that energy changes the entire atmosphere, your confidence wavers, you withdraw just a little, and suddenly a moment that could have brought you closer becomes a silent wall between you. But here's the truth that needs to be tattooed in your hearting. His softness is not about you. It's not about your body, your desirability, or your femininity. It's usually about him, his stress, his nerves, his headspace, his biology, or something as simple as being overtired or distracted. And the moment you stop internalizing his physical response as your failure, you become infinitely more powerful, because now you're standing in your own confidence. You're not looking for validation in his body's behavior. You already know your worth. This kind of self-assurance is magnetic. It sends a very different message both to him and to yourselves. I'm secure in who I am. I know I'm desirable. They realize that, no, this isn't a reflection of me. And when you carry that energy, genuinely, not performatively, it's like a reset button for both of you. He no longer feels like he has to protect your ego on top of dealing with his own insecurity. He doesn't have to manage your emotions while struggling with his own disappointment. That frees up space for connection instead of tension. Men may not always articulate this, but they notice how you react in these moments. When a woman starts pulling away, closing up, or needing reassurance that she's still attractive, even puts more pressure on him. But when she stays light, playful, grounded, and warm, he breathes easier, he feels safer. And ironically, the thing that often brings his body back to life isn't effort, it's ease. Ease that comes from knowing he hasn't disappointed you, that you're not taking it personally. Realize that you're not going to withdraw your affection because of something his body did for reasons even he may not fully understand. This is where emotional maturity becomes one of the sexiest traits a woman can have, because it's not just about being hot, it's being whole. It's about knowing that your value isn't dependent on a man's reaction, that you're not made less desirable by a moment of vulnerability. In fact, it's the opposite. A woman who knows how to stay connected, even when the energy shifts, that's the kind of woman who builds trust, who builds comfort. Realize that they're who becomes unforgettable in a man's life because she brings peace instead of pressure. And don't underestimate how much you benefit from this mindset shift. When you stop internalizing everything, you get to actually enjoy the moment instead of obsessing over it. You get to stay present, affectionate, and connected. You get to keep your glow intact, your energy magnetic, and your focus on intimacy, not on insecurity. And that's when the experience becomes something more than physical. It becomes emotional. It becomes real. So the next time his joystick isn't where you expected it to be, realize that check in with yourself. Are you anchoring into your worth, or are you making his body the judge of your value? Because when you hold your confidence steady, when you remind yourself that you're still widely desirable, still glowing, still everything, he feels that. And often that's exactly what he needs to reconnect with you, both physically and emotionally. So let's be real. Every couple will face a moment like this at some point. His joystick won't respond the way he or you expected. And suddenly you're both standing at a crossroads. Do you let that moment become something awkward and tense there, or do you use it to create deeper intimacy, trust, and connection there? The women who leave a lasting mark in a man's life aren't the ones who panic in moments like this. They're the ones who show grace, confidence, and compassion. They don't make it about ego. They don't make it about performance. They make it about the experience, about the connection, about the presence you bring into that space, even when things aren't going by the script. That there, by staying calm, shifting the energy, offering gentle reassurance, taking the lead when it's needed. And most importantly, they realize that by never making it about you, you create an environment where desire can flourish again, where he feels safe, seen, and wanted. And not for what his body does in one moment, but for who he is. Realize that and if you're the kind of woman who can handle a soft joystick with softness, confidence, and heart, realize they don't just become someone he wants in the bedroom, you become someone he never wants to lose. If this resonated with you and you want more real, grounded relationship advice to help you become unforgettable in all the right ways, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Realize that leave a comment below if you've ever had a moment like this, or if you've handled it in a way that brought you and your partner closer. I'd love to hear from you. Remember, realize their true intimacy